Hey folks, Timothy here. We're meeting under a full moon to discuss the nature of the times and what times these are. I believe the last time I spoke to you, the rains were starting to come down at the end of the video. We thought that would be a tropical storm that ended up turning into the Hurricane Helene, which eradicated essentially all of the surrounding area. So we've been without power, water, all sorts of things, and lucky to have to be back up and running. Really lucky to be able to participate in the Evolutionary Astrology Conference last week. And we'll talk more about how we can show support for rebuilding Asheville that was just completely demolished by the hurricane as of recent. All right. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. The founder of evolutionary astrology is Jeffrey Wolf Green. There's only one founder. There are others that claim to be the founder of EA. Just read their books, compare their teachings. It's obvious who's the real expert and who's the amateur. Why I'm kicking off my video on that note will make more sense as this video unfolds. Now, the real healing essence of astrology comes from the fact that astrology is not a man-made system. It's 100% nature. It has been discovered by humans over the course of many centuries, cross-culturally. We discovered the 12 zodiac signs. We discovered the seasons of life, the seasons of nature. That's what the zodiac is. So by understanding the zodiac, we understand the actual facets of natural life. And by understanding the zodiac, we therefore also learn where culture or society, that is what is man-made, can be biased towards or against particular zodiac signs. And you can betcha that that's the case. And this is actually where astrology is a major healing art form. In fact, it's an art form I don't see anything even close to replacing. So I think it's essential that more people learn astrology, regardless of whether or not you become a professional astrologer. That is why I am putting together my astrology school. Now, this last year and a half, the moon's north node has been transiting Aries. Wherever the transiting moon's north node is, that's where we are collectively learning, growing, and evolving by having particular experiences. So again, you can maybe get some of the value of learning astrology because you don't have to learn every little piece of astrology to get some really useful information. But since July of 2023, the moon's north node has been in the sign of Aries, where our full moon tomorrow, October 17th, will be taking place, conjoined the centaur planet Chiron, as well as the trans-Plutonian Eris, the goddess of discord. This is an ouchie full moon, also squaring Mars and squaring Pluto, who has just stationed direct at the last degree of Capricorn on Friday, October 11th. This is the last time that Pluto will ever station in Capricorn in our lifetimes. And this is big deal stuff. Why? Because this station is to rake up the bottom of the barrel, the majority of the iceberg beneath the water, that is the unconscious. We identify as the little tip of the iceberg. That's our conscious nature. That's what we say is me. That's what we say is our ego, our story, what we like or dislike, our ulterior motivations, our power dynamics. What is actually driving the ship is Pluto, the unconscious. So the fact that Pluto stationed direct in Capricorn for the last time in our lifetime is going to bring up this, just drilling up this deconditioning. What is conditioning? The expectations and obligations that were placed on us, usually by our parents, then teachers, then bosses, and oftentimes this is unnatural. Okay, so we're going to talk about how Aries, where this full moon is, where the moon's north node has been transiting nearly the last year and a half, I have, through observation, seen this last year and a half that Aries is one of the least understood and the most biased against signs of the zodiac. This full moon's going to illuminate that. because this full moon's going to bring up anger. It's going to bring up reactivity. Anger and reactivity is in itself something that we have a bias against, typically in culture, society, and certainly religion, which can be very, very cult-like. Anger is a defensive, protective emotion that in and of itself needs to be respected and embraced as a healthy emotion. Whereas there can be so much man-made cults or religions that can condemn anger and simultaneously condemn individuality, condemn independence, condemn freedom, condemn uniqueness, and the ability to think for ourselves. That's what Aries is all about. Now, Aries is also protection, leading, initiating. Okay, so anger is a protective emotion. Anger in and of itself is healthy. It's important. And it can also be something very destructive. This is obviously why there's a bias against Aries, is it can go very wrong. But what we're learning these years with the North Node's transit of Aries is how to do anger or do Aries right. So anger is like a hot potato. You have to hold it and respect it. And what it means is separate. Anger equals separate. Whenever there's a certain heightened degree of anger, it's simply going to lead to destruction. There's not going to be a capability to communicate or be understood. So nothing productive can happen until separation occurs. And this is a full moon that's going to generate the triggers, the reactions, all of the ulterior motivations, all of the power dynamics, all of that's getting raked straight up to the surface, because you can bet you there's a whole bunch of bullshit that we've all been coasting on for a little bit too long, and this is going to be the time where it all falls apart. Not to be taken personally, this is a collective endeavor. This is again about deconditioning, which basically means breaking the rules of what it is we thought we were supposed to be or what it is we were supposed to do. And the societies, the cultures, the religions that we're oftentimes born into are cult-like. We are at the tail end of the Pisces age, where everything has merged into a singularity and we're all supposed to behave and dress and act all the same way. That's oftentimes what the religious cult encourages us to do. This particular full moon is like a TNT stick that's going to blow all of that shit clear out of the water. And this full moon is conjoined the healing centaur, Chiron, as well as Eris, the goddess of discord, who throws the golden apple to the goddesses and starts a huge war amongst the gods and goddesses. So, obviously, discord is not seen as a positive thing, oftentimes. But it's actually necessary for us to have discord, for us to have a certain level of chaos and separation, for us to turn things in on itself, to stir the pot enough for healthy change to occur. Because we don't want to stay in the same exact patriarchal, hierarchical, narcissist who claims to be a guru, who assembles a cult of codependents who want to eliminate their individuality. This occurs within family dynamics. This occurs within relational dynamics. This has been passed down generation to generation. It occurs in unique ways dependent on our culture and what nation or continent we're born within. But that's the stuff that's getting raked up these days. It's a huge turning of a corner, with Venus going opposite to Uranus. That's ongoing through this full moon. Pluto stationed direct again. Full moon squares Pluto, full moon squares Mars. It's an angry, angry full moon, I will tell you that. And it is, again, also the culmination and the completion of this learning of how to do Aries in a healthy way. So, what this means is we have to learn how to do anger in a healthy way too. The hot potato means we have to separate. We have to get our heads back on when we're able to understand what's even going on and the difference between me and you, the difference between our approach, the difference between our perspectives. That's what Aries is all about. Honoring differences, honoring each must go our own way. And again, we have to look at where religion, culture, or even family dynamics can discourage this type of honoring of individuality. We say that's selfish, Why is that reaction happening? What is being protected? What is not working that needs to change? Because this is not working. There's no way, with Pluto stationing at the last degree of Capricorn, that the religions we've been involved in, the cults we've been involved in, the careers that we've been doing up until now are all hunky-dory, complete, and perfect. There is no way. This full moon is going to throw a TNT stick and blow that shit clear out of the water. And it's going to cause us to really sit back and think as well. We really got to think things through. What's true and what's not true. And what's right and what's not right. And what's good and what's not good. Because it's probably not as simple as the children's fantasies and fables and tales that we were taught growing up. And again, I'm encouraging you all to watch out for those fake-ass gurus who like to pose themselves similarly like children's tales, and they'll present themselves as being always happy, never having anger, never having reactivity. I'm calling out all of those so-called teachers as bullshit artists. God created Aries. God created Mars. Every soul, no matter what stage of spiritual advancement, is going to experience anger and reactivity sometimes. So if you have a guru who pretends to never experience anger, or they say, oh, when I experience anger, it's different than when you experience anger, all you're dealing with is a fake person. What it's about is learning how to honor what's working, what's not, when to go our separate ways. And this is a time where we need to go our separate ways. As I said, this is also a time that's going to cause us to reflect upon what's true and what's not true. This is Jupiter stationing retrograde last Wednesday, the 9th, at 21 degrees Gemini. This is also going to invite us to diversify. It's like truth is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Again, this is the cult-like pathology that we're trying to heal out of our relationships, our religions, our culture. So there is this embracing of diversification. That there are different interests, there's different directions, and we ourselves may be diversifying. There may be different things that we may want to be doing, but Jupiter having just stationed is going to cause us to reflect and really question, especially on this circumstantial reality, where it's like, no, what's true for me? What's true for me in this situation? And what's true for them that may be true for them in their situation. But I will tell you what, there is not one singular, one-size-fits-all truth. And the only person who's going to sell that to you is a bullshit artist, who I'm going to let you know is what we prefer. Having studied astrology for over a decade, especially this last year of looking at Aries, people don't want Aries. People don't want to... What it is a lack of courage. What it is a lack of confidence to be ourselves or to go our own way. And so we say being nice or being fake or sacrificing our individuality to another person, to a lover or a guru or a teacher, we fake ourselves into believing that that's love. Or we fake ourselves into believing that that is the right thing to do. But that could actually be a dynamic that's full of abuse. And Pluto stationing at the last degree of Capricorn is going to bring up all of these power dynamics, ulterior motivations. And if we're not addressing the majority of the iceberg beneath the water, we're just not aware. We're not going to have the capacity to be in a relationship. we're not going to have a capacity to be honest. How can we be in a relationship if we're not able to be honest? So this is requiring us to reflect on all of these different bits and pieces and all of these different facets and how every person's got a different perspective. This full moon, via the reactivity, via the anger, via the frustration, is going to force us to go our own way. There's also a lot of a reevaluation around commitment, sacrifice, and where we can overly merge or lose our identity or individuality to another. Again, the stuff I've been saying like a broken record for the last year and a half, because that's been the moon's north node's transit of Aries, where this full moon is occurring tomorrow on the 17th. So good news is when the moon's north node goes into Pisces, through July of 2026, I'm going to become a much more popular astrologer because I'll be able to teach and talk about things that societally, culturally, and religiously are less, we're more favorable towards Pisces than Aries. Sorry about the camera bobbling. Okay, so we're learning to get strong. We're learning where and how to trailblaze, where and how to initiate, where and how to go our own way, where and how to bring in separation. This is not a all or nothing, 0 or 100% situation. I'm not saying bring in all separation and always be separate. How do we bring in enough separation so that way we have balance? That way we can evaluate. That way we can know ourselves, our gifts, and what it is that we are bringing to the table. I think I talk a lot louder when it's windy. It's like I have to shout. Then I come off more Aries. Then people don't like me. I'm super, super exhausted because of the survival situation I've been in for the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to wrap it up here. The last transit I'm going to mention that's occurring around the same time of this full moon is asteroid Pallas Athena squares Saturn, which can create this conflict between our need for pragmaticism and our need for freedom, and this can bring up various creative blocks. It can also put a lot of pressure, like, oh, we got to do everything perfect when we haven't had sleep, electricity, or food or water for weeks. So we need to completely rebuild new structures right now. This is Pluto's completion of transit really this next month. So, I mean, this is big, big deal astrology. There's going to be a complete renewal of fundamental structures going on this next couple months. It can be our job, relationship, how it is we approach our fundamental life, to embrace our uniqueness, to embrace our creative gifts, and then to come full circle and offer these things back to the whole. That's what we learn by studying the zodiac, which is the same as nature, God's creation. As far as I can understand, we need to honor and respect each other's differences so that way we can come back to the table with each our own voice, each our own perspective, each our own gifts, each our own slice to the pie, and wherever that cannot happen, we have to separate. This is why I left Asheville over summertime. It's just my voice couldn't exist there. The New Age movement is a stereotype. Look this way, dress this way, act this way, and time again, my hopeful heart shows up for an elder, for a teacher, for a healer who ends up being the next dime a dozen New Age charlatan. So we got to honor our differences. We have to honor anger even, to separate where it's healthy and necessary to save ourselves. This is also going to bring back online any phantom limbs that we may have already cut off or discarded. That phantom limb is going to be saying, hey, you left me behind. Hey, you've put me on the back burner. It's going to bring up all sorts of gender dynamics. Folks, it's no longer just men who are narcissists and women who are codependents. Like, seriously, we need to stop with these blanket statements, one size fits all things. No, this is a circumstantial reality. That's what this Jupiter station in Gemini is waking us up to. So there are plenty of narcissistic women, and there are plenty of codependent men. And there is not one particular caricature for either. But we have unconscious bias because of how we were raised, or the stories that we were taught growing up, or the bullshit that is, exuded from the mouths of these bullshit gurus or teachers in order to exert control over their followers, etc., etc. This is the time to be looking at all of these nitty-gritty details, taking us to the basement levels of our consciousness. Saturn rules all structure, so we're going through a tremendous restructuring. But Saturn rules structures of consciousness as well. So we're restructuring our entire consciousness. Who's the authority? Who's God? How do we orient ourselves to be empowered? How do we orient ourselves to be in control? We have to be in control of our lives to a certain degree. And we're not in control of everything because nobody is. So this is where this restructuring is happening. Where and who do we give our power away? And how can we reclaim our missing phantom limb? So to come back more empowered, to come back more confident, and to be able to lead and initiate in the way God ordained us to be. This is the interesting dichotomy between freedom and the limitations that we're born into as well. It's the same structure. So the birth chart reflects what we're born into. Fake-ass astrologers who will tell you what you want to hear versus harder to swallow truths will say you can outgrow your birth chart, which is total bullshit. The only people who will tout such bullshit are people who are amateur astrologers, but they're also just saying what you want to hear. It's not true. The truth is the birth chart reflects the highly unique nature that we're born into, that we have free will within. Like how some consciousness born into a bird body has bird nature. We're born into a human body. We have human nature. If we climb to the top of a skyscraper, jump off of the skyscraper, we're not going to be able to grow wings like a little birdie and fly like a bird. Now, there's a lot of charlatans out there telling you that you create your own reality and that you can do whatever you want to do. And they're fucking fakers. But not only that, they're harmful. They end up harming their followers. They end up inviting people to jump off of skyscrapers, and people end up getting seriously hurt. Okay, so let's understand that there is a highly unique nature that we're born into that's almost like a vehicle that we're learning to drive in the best possible way. So that way we can share the road with all the other drivers without getting into accidents. And we can also, really enjoy the vehicle that we have. This vehicle is going to be unique and have all sort of features that only we have to possess, use, and implement. So now's the time to discover that, to put it to use, and then we won't be so bitter, so angry, or so exhausted. This has a lot to do with our bodies, our health, and coming back to strength as well. Speaking of, I need to stop this video. I've probably gone on too long because I'm actually really, really exhausted. I look forward to speaking to you next time. I'll also give you all the updates with the Q&As and all that, because we've obviously had a lot of change-ups with the hurricane. So stay in tune. Keep in touch. RasalilahCommunity.com. That's where you can stay in touch with me, all of the other followers, conversations, chat room, all that's ongoing. You can bring in your own healing process. You can ask for support. You can share your artwork or your solo, homemade business. That's what the Rasalila community is all about. So I hope to see you there. And until next time, and as always, please do take care.